My name is Kethvar, and I am a Zalani War chronicler. For 300 cycles, I have recorded the rise and fall of civilizations across 17 star systems. I have witnessed the mighty Corvin Empire crush entire species with their plasma cannons. I watched the crystalline Vorth consume whole planets for their silicon cores. I documented the last stand of the peaceful Mirren against the savage Brutic hordes. In all my years of recording galactic conflicts, I believed I had seen the peak of warfare and destruction. I was wrong. The day I first encountered humans, everything I thought I knew about war changed forever. That day marked the beginning of my understanding of why ancient races speak of humanity in hushed tones, why even the most powerful galactic empires avoid human space, and why the stars themselves seem to tremble when human warships appear on the horizon. It began when my research vessel, the Chronicle's Edge, received a distress signal from the Outer Rim. The signal came from Kepler Station, a massive trading hub that served as a neutral meeting point for dozens of species. The station housed over 2 million beings from across the galaxy, making it one of the largest multicultural centers in known space. The message was brief but terrifying. Admiral Vexthal of the Hegemony Fleet had declared Kepler Station a strategic asset and demanded immediate surrender. The Hegemony was known throughout the galaxy as a collection of the most ruthless warrior races. Their fleets had conquered 47 systems in the past decade alone. When the Hegemony wanted something, resistance was usually futile. But Kepler Station refused to surrender. My chronicler duties required me to document significant galactic events, so I set course for the station immediately. The journey took 6 standard days, and by the time I arrived, the situation had escalated far beyond anyone's expectations. The Hegemony had brought their full third fleet to Kepler Station. 67 heavy cruisers formed a blockade around the massive structure. Each cruiser was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could glass a planet's surface in hours. The fleet's flagship, the Devastator, was a dreadnought so large it created its own gravitational field. Admiral Vexthal himself commanded the Devastator. The Krillian warlord was legendary for his cruelty and tactical brilliance. In 40 years of conquest, he had never lost a battle. His strategy was always the same: overwhelming force followed by complete annihilation of any resistance. Survivors were rare when Vexthal decided a target was worth taking. I positioned my small vessel at the edge of the blockade and began recording. My initial assessment was grim. Kepler Station had no military defenses worth mentioning. A handful of security corvettes and some outdated point defense systems were all that stood between 2 million civilians and the Hegemony's fury. The station's governing council had sent desperate messages to every major power in the galaxy, begging for military assistance. Most responses were polite refusals. The Galactic Federation expressed concern, but claimed they couldn't spare ships. The Altair Republic offered to accept refugees, but wouldn't risk war with the Hegemony. The Centauri Union didn't even bother responding. Kepler Station was on its own, or so I thought. On the second day of the blockade, everything changed. My sensors detected a massive hyperspace signature approaching from the direction of Sol System. Whatever was coming was big enough to distort spacetime around it. Admiral Vexthal's fleet detected it too, and for the first time since arriving, the Hegemony ships moved into defensive positions. What emerged from hyperspace defied everything I knew about starship design. The human vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Devastator. But size wasn't what made it terrifying. The ship's hull was black as the void between stars, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, glowing with soft blue energy. The vessel moved with impossible grace for something so massive, like a predator stalking its prey. But it was alone, one ship against an entire Hegemony fleet. Admiral Vexthal's response was immediate and predictable. He opened a communication channel to the human vessel, his voice carrying the arrogance of someone who had crushed countless enemies. "Unknown vessel, you're interfering with a legitimate Hegemony operation. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. The human response came several minutes later. The voice was calm, almost conversational, with a strange accent that marked all human speech. Admiral Vexthal, I am Captain Sarachun of the UES Retribution. You are threatening civilians under the protection of the Human Defense Compact. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your forces and depart this system. The Admiral's laughter echoed across the comm channels. One ship threatens my entire fleet? Human arrogance knows no bounds. You have 5 minutes to surrender before I reduce your vessel to scrap metal. 29 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, Admiral. I watched in fascination as both fleets prepared for battle. The hegemony ships moved into their standard attack formation, a crushing wall of firepower designed to overwhelm any opposition. The human ship simply waited, motionless in the void. 29 minutes passed in tense silence. Then, Admiral Vexthal lost patience. Destroy them, he ordered. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about space combat. The hegemony fleet opened fire simultaneously. 67 ships unleashed enough firepower to vaporize a small planet. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and fusion missiles converged on a human vessel in a display of destruction that lit up space like a newborn star. But the human ship didn't die. Instead, the black hole seemed to drink in the energy being poured into it. The geometric patterns across its surface blazed brighter as they absorbed the massive assault. For a moment, I thought the humans had developed some kind of revolutionary shielding technology. Then, the Retribution fired back. I had recorded hundreds of space battles, but I had never seen weapons like these. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the human ship fired what could only be described as controlled gravity wells. Space itself warped and twisted around the hegemony fleet. I watched in stunned silence as 3 heavy cruisers were simply crushed into metallic spheres by forces beyond my understanding. But that was just the beginning. The black ship moved like nothing I had ever seen. It flowed through space like liquid shadow, appearing in one location and then instantly materializing somewhere else entirely. The hegemony's targeting systems couldn't lock onto it. Their weapons fired at empty space while the Retribution struck from impossible angles. More gravity weapons lashed out. Another cruiser crumpled like tissue paper. Then another. The human ship's main guns spoke, and a beam of pure destruction carved through the hegemony formation. For ships simply ceased to exist. Their matter converted to energy in a fraction of a second. Admiral Vexthal's voice cracked as he screamed orders to his fleet. All ships, focus fire. Ramming speed. Destroy that abomination. The remaining hegemony vessels charged forward in desperation. It was a brave, but futile gesture. The human ship danced between them, its weapons reaching out like the hands of death itself. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were swatted aside like insects. But the most terrifying moment came when the Devastator itself tried to ram the Retribution. The massive dreadnought accelerated to attack speed, its reinforced prow aimed directly at the human vessel's hull. Captain Chen's voice echoed across the battlefield, still calm, still conversational. Negative, Admiral. That won't be happening. The Retribution simply reached out with one of its gravity weapons and stopped the Devastator dead in space. A ship massing billions of tons was held motionless by forces I couldn't comprehend. Then, with casual precision, the human vessel began to squeeze. I watched the pride of the hegemony fleet crumple slowly, its hull buckling and twisting as invisible forces compressed it. Admiral Vexthal's final transmission was a scream of pure terror before his communications went silent forever. In less than an hour, the entire hegemony Third Fleet had been destroyed. 67 ships reduced to floating debris and expanding gas clouds. 2 million civilians on Kepler Station were safe, saved by a single human vessel. But Captain Chen wasn't finished. Her next transmission went out on all frequencies, reaching every ship, station, and communication relay within 50 light years. This is Captain Sarachun of the Human Defense Force. Let this serve as notice to all who would threaten innocent life. Humanity has taken these people under our protection. Any future aggression against civilians in this sector will be met with swift and decisive action. We are watching, we are ready, and we do not forget. The message was simple, but the implications were staggering. Humanity had just announced their presence as a galactic power with a demonstration of military might that defied everything we thought we knew about the limits of warfare. As I watched the retribution disappear back into hyperspace, leaving only wreckage and stunned survivors in its wake, I realized that the galaxy had changed forever. A new player had entered the game, one that played by rules none of us understood. I began to research everything I could find about humanity. What I discovered filled me with a mixture of awe and terror that haunts me still. The humans weren't just another warrior species seeking conquest and glory. They were something far more dangerous. They were protectors with the power to back up their convictions. My investigation revealed that Kepler Station was not humanity's first intervention. For the past 50 years, human ships had been appearing wherever civilians faced extinction. Pirates, slavers, and would-be conquerors had vanished without explanation. Entire fleets had simply disappeared, leaving only radiation signatures and debris fields as evidence of their existence. The galaxy's military leaders had been trying to understand these mysterious defeats for decades. Now I knew the truth. Humanity had been fighting a shadow war against every force that threatened innocent life, and they had been winning every battle. But why? What drove them to risk everything for strangers? Why did they care about the fate of species they had never met? The answer to that question would take me years to understand, and when I finally grasped it, it would shake the foundations of everything I believed about civilization and war. As I began my journey back to Zalani space, one thought echoed in my mind. If humanity was willing and able to destroy an entire hegemony fleet to protect civilians they had never met, what would they do to enemies who actually threatened Earth itself? I was about to find out. The war was coming, and it would make the destruction of Admiral Vexthal's fleet look like a minor skirmish. The greatest military powers in the galaxy were about to learn why even ancient races feared to speak humanity's name aloud. I had witnessed the opening move in a conflict that would reshape the stars themselves. 3 months after witnessing the destruction of Admiral Vexthal's fleet, I found myself in the capital system of the Corvan Empire. The sight that greeted me there defied all logic and strategic thinking. Emperor Zalkurith had assembled the largest military force in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships filled the space around Corvan Prime, representing not just the Empire's full strength, but alliance fleets from 17 different species. The Bruta Confederacy had sent their entire war fleet. The Silicon hegemony contributed